Hi, happy Saturday. Hi, how are you? We're going to be hosting our live Baby Carriers 101 class today. So, super excited to do this. We've never done this in this format. We have had meetings all around Los Angeles really the last 10 years. I'm Laura Brown. I'm Babywearing LA's founder, and I am a certified baby wearing consultant. I'm also a car seat tech and a doula and many other things involving babies. Hold on, we're reconnecting. Hi, just gonna give it a minute while people join us. If you've come to a Babywearing LA meeting, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our meetings are free, which is awesome. And we offer help with your baby carriers, but it isn't a class format. So one of the reasons why we don't do it that way is often when people come to see us at meetings, they have different needs. Their babies are at different stages and they don't need a one-on-one class, or they're not in a space where they want to sit down and listen to a class. They just want to get help with their carrier. But I have been teaching this one-on-one class all over the United States the last several years. So I wanted to introduce you to really all carrier styles because they are all great. And this is why we exist, is because not all baby carriers are for every person. So what your friend likes, what you like may be different. What you and your partner likes, if you have one, might be different. You might use a different carrier in different stages of your life with that baby. So newborn stage versus infant versus toddler, you're likely going to use different carriers. I know that that's not always what people want to hear, but it's true. And you might choose a carrier for what you're doing, your activity level. So whether you're running into Starbucks or you are running errands versus hiking versus a carrier you're going to take to an amusement park, go to Disneyland, you're likely going to use different carriers for that. So carriers are really a lot like shoes. They're often compared to jeans where the fit is so personal, but I also liken them to shoes because you have your flip-flops, your hiking boots, your heels. Different carriers serve different purposes. So again, I'm Laura Brown. I'm our org's founder. So I'm going to start from the very beginning. You're going to have to forgive me because I'm going to use a doll today for demonstration. So no real babies today, but I think this is best for our class. So if you do have questions or just want to say hi, please leave questions in the comments. Please, go ahead and leave them there and I'll do my best to answer them, or I'll try and get to them later. But I don't want you to have questions unanswered. So I am here in my studio. This is my bedroom upstairs, right? So here's my couch of dolls and carriers because we're going to really go through pretty much all of the 5 main categories of carriers, as well as some hybrids. So carriers that sort of meet in between those styles, right? So there are many that are kind of a little bit of both. So I can understand feeling overwhelmed when you go to choose a carrier. I can totally understand why most folks choose the wrong carrier. Now, this is my opinion after teaching the last 10 years, that most purchase the wrong carrier for them. This is because they perceive buckle carriers to be easier. This is because they don't have a chance to try them on or get help with them. This is because they start out with one thing and realize they need something else. So don't feel bad if you end up with the wrong carrier. That's okay. There's lots of ways to kind of expand your knowledge and try different things. And this is why in-person baby wearing groups are so important. I'm really sorry that we're currently all having to take a hiatus. Hopefully this helps you a little bit along your baby wearing journey. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my doll. We're going to talk a little bit about the baby benefits of baby wearing. And I call them benefits, but they're really just why baby expects to be carried, why they think they're going to be carried. Because we're so much like primates in that way. So if you're here, I'm assuming you like baby wearing, you're interested in baby wearing, maybe you have a carrier or 2 or 20. I don't tell anyone how many baby carriers I have because, we don't talk about baby carrier clubs. So anyways, I'm going to grab my doll, okay? All right. So if you are a person that has given birth, I'm sure that they have talked to you a lot about the benefits of skin to skin, right? So once you birth the baby is placed right here in your upper chest, breast area, right? And that's because we have a really special set of nerves here, right? These are called C afferent nerves, and these are the nerves that really raise the temperature of the baby, but also bring the baby's temperature down, which is really incredible if you think about it. But it's often called the habitat, right? So baby gets everything that they need from this upper chest area. So they get warmth, shelter, protection, access to food if you choose to breast or chest feed, but really everything the baby needs is right here. And that's not just humans. We like to think we're so different than primates, but when you look at the way that primates hold their babies, baby is also up here in this area, right? So baby is up high on our body, and we're able to easily lean down and kiss the top of the baby's head. So we call this kissable height, right? So that baby is really at kissable level. This is because we want to be able to see the baby's face. That also is baby's airway, right? Their nose and their mouth. But this is also so baby can plug into that really amazing skin-to-skin contact, right? So up here in that upper chest area is really where the benefit comes from, which is fantastic. So that doesn't mean we're not going to lower the baby or put the baby on our back during different times of our journey with baby wearing. But what it means is really they're designed, number one, they're born squatted, right? You've seen all babies are young or like this. They're squatted with that nice rounded back, right? Because they don't yet have complete head and neck control into torso control. And when we move with our babies, which is what they're designed to do, is move with us, that's how they build that important head and neck control all the way down into their torsos, right? So that happens because we move with our babies, not because they're down flat on their backs or even doing tummy time. That's very beneficial, and we're huge fans of tummy time, but also that we know they're designed to cling onto our bodies. Remember that cute little hand holding that they do, or finger holding that all babies do? Those little curly toes, they often dig their toes in and push, right? So all of these are signs that we are close to primates, and they are designed to hold on to us or cling on to our bodies, right? So we have lots of little clues that tell us, in addition to small stomachs, feeding frequently, right? They go short periods of time in between eating, so they need to be close to food source. So body, clinging, food, temperature regulation, protection, right? So if they're up off the ground, they are not at risk of getting eaten by predators. I know we think we're so far from that, but really our young worry about those sorts of things on a very primitive, biological level. Predators are a worry, okay? So stress hormones, the higher the baby off the ground, the lower the stress hormones. So it helps to regulate baby's hormones as well. Yummy oxytocin, yum, yum, yum. Taste baby. I always joke about eating babies, right? It's called cute aggression. Anyone like to munch on babies? They're so delicious. This also is driven by those feel-good hormones, that oxytocin that gives us that rush or that high that makes us feel love and makes us feel bonded to the baby and want to be close to our babies, right? So it kind of feeds into us being together as a dyad or really as a grouping that's designed to go together. So this is actually a big argument for when you're in the hospital or when you have a newborn, when you're home, those first few days or weeks after birth. It's actually really important that you can continue to do skin to skin and keep baby close to you. It doesn't suddenly expire when you leave the hospital or in those first few days after birth. It's also why a toddler who's cranky, has a fever, often comes back to you and wants to cling on to you and is suddenly really snuggly. It's all the same things that drive them to do this, is to boost, get that temperature regulation. If they have a fever helps to kill that virus, right, or that bacteria. And so all those things sort of work in tandem to bring your bodies back together. So there's no such thing as holding your babies too much, okay? I'd love to see some hearts for that. I'd love that myth to go away, is that our babies are designed to be carried, okay? So this is something that my mentor, Joanna from Center for Baby-Wearing Studies, has always said, and I couldn't agree more, is that our babies are designed to be close to us, not far away. And this helps with that hormone regulation on many different levels, okay? It also helps to ward off postpartum depression and baby blues, anxiety, right? Because we're getting those surges of oxytocin and feel-good hormones, and it's keeping those stress hormones at bay. So another fun fact about tasting or kissing the top of the baby's head, is that you're also sampling antibodies, right? Which is then coming out through your milk. So it does serve a really amazing purpose. So granted, we're in a pandemic right now, so it's a little bit different bringing your babies outside of the house, but you absolutely can get outside practicing appropriate social distancing, right? But your babies really need lots of reassurance during this time, especially in times of stress, right? So they want to be close to us. So often I get questions about the baby's legs and hips. They're born in a spread squat position, right, where their knees are at or above their bottom, right? Often called an M position. I see this a lot, but really what it is this is the natural squat position of a newborn. They're often more narrow, and then they widen as the baby gets stronger. But also what's happening in tandem is that the baby's getting better head and neck control as that squat widens. And it makes so much sense because the baby needs to be able to hold up their head, right? So the squat naturally widens a little bit. And they need to be able to have an easier time as they get heavier to squat and hold on to our bodies. So a squat is actually the ideal position for a baby because that's what helps them use their core muscles. If they're not squatting at all and their legs are together, they're not using those important core muscles. We think babies are like noodles, right? That they're so squishy that they can't hold themselves up at all. That is completely not true. They have some muscle control, right? And so this is actually one argument for never holding the baby's head down. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in all the carrier styles that we're going to cover today. But basically, we don't want to hold the baby's head down. We want to make sure the upper back is supported and the back is supported well and that they're seated well in the carrier. And that's going to give them that opportunity to build those muscles. Pretty cool, huh? So this baby expects to be worn. Your baby expects to be worn. Of course, there's going to be troubleshooting that happens throughout the process. And I do have some ideas for that. We'll talk a little bit about troubleshooting at the end. But please, if you have questions, leave them in the comments. And then we will also be saving this, right? So this will be available as evergreen content through IGTV as well as on our Facebook page, okay? So I am going to start with one of the most common carriers for newborns, and that is a stretch wrap, often called a Moby wrap. Moby is one fabulous brand of stretch wrap. There's a million others: Happy Baby, Solly, Tuck and Bundle, the Ergo Baby Aura wrap. They're all fantastic. They all are about use the same, right? So that means that the general positioning, despite brand, is about the same. Okay, so I'm going to grab my wrap. Anyone out there use a stretch wrap before? Maybe a heart. Give me a heart or two. Are you using stretch wraps? Do you love them? Maybe you don't love it and that's why you're here. Okay. So here we go. All right, so I could make an argument that this is the most purchased, least used carrier style. And that's because many folks get overwhelmed by all this fabric, right? They see the fabric and they're like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do it. This is what leads many to purchasing something like a Baby Catan or a Moby Fit or a Connie Baby or a a Kaboo would be another adjustable one. I'm actually not going to cover Catan specifically or any of that style because they're sized, so you need to get fitted appropriately. But loading the baby in is the same. It's basically a cheater version of a stretch wrap. The advantage of using a stretch wrap that's not sized is that it's going to be the perfect size for you and the baby every time. So that's the advantage. Okay. So I'm going to start in the center of my wrap. So here is my, and depending on the brand that you have, it may be a printed or heat sealed tag or maybe an actual physical little tag. It doesn't matter if you're going to start here or here. It doesn't really matter. All this does is tell you where the center of your wrap is, that you have even amounts of fabric on either side, right? So I'm going to start high. So I'm going to place it here in the center of my body. I'm actually going to tip my camera down a little bit so you can see me on Facebook. There we go. Okay. Everyone see me okay? Good? Okay. So I'm going to start in the center, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it down. This is my non-dominant hand. Doesn't really matter what side you want to start with. But I'm going to hold it down with my left hand or my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to give myself plenty of slack. And this is important because I'm going to swing it around, right? So forgive yourself. Give yourself lots and lots of room, right, when you're doing this, because we're going to go under elbow and over the opposite side. Okay? No need to fold it in half. Those days are over. We stopped doing that, all right? So let's just go ahead and have our wrap nice and flat and straight. So do you see where we started? Okay, great. Flat and straight. Why? Because the flatter and straighter it is, the better the weight distribution, right? The longer it's going to last you. So I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to bring it through. Go under elbow and up and over the opposite side. Okay? So here's where many go wrong. This is stretchy. This is a Moby Evolution, their bamboo version. It's the soft version that I really love. Okay, so if we want to place a baby in it, this is too loose, especially if we're dealing with a newborn, a small baby, right? Anything stretchy like this is really designed for a small baby into infant. It is not a large baby toddler carrier, okay? It's stretchy, so as baby grows, it's going to get less supportive. So we want to account for the fact that our baby is small and that we want them to be high and at kissable height on our body. So this is your opportunity to tighten again. So see our X? Okay? You can pull and tighten. Pull and tighten up, okay? This is your opportunity to do this before we finish our tie-off. So why a lot of folks choose a stretch wrap? What are the pros? Can you write out some of the pros of a stretch wrap or a Moby for me? They are super soft. They're easy to wear and super comfortable for most. They fit a wide range of body styles. And they also are fairly inexpensive. So this is an argument for why you would want to purchase something like this. I think that's a lot like having baby on the inside to the outside, right? So it has a really cozy feel. So what I'm going to do is take these two over my shoulder, and I'm going to ball them up, with my dress. This is always why I have leggings underneath. I'm going to stuff it through. There we go. Okay. So I'm maintaining my nice straight passes, right? And then I am going to cross them. So the cross or the X is where baby's going to sit. I'm going to pull this down so that you can see what I'm doing, okay? This is important because where the bottom of the X lies is where your baby's booty is going to end up. So if your X is up here, baby's going to be too high because their booty is going to be way up here. If your X is too loose or too low, if you're way down here, and making your X down here, the baby's going to be too low on your body. So you can use this as a marker for where your baby ends up, okay? So for me, I'm actually quite long torsoed for my height. So for me, it's going to be about here. It's going to be slightly mid-breast. For you, you're going to have to experiment with it a little bit. I know that that's not what people want to hear, but you might need to practice a little bit. I'm a huge fan of practicing before baby comes. If you have a willing cat or dog, kitty, sort of. My Boston Terrier used to love it. I used to wrap him. Okay. So you might need to experiment, and where the X goes on you and a partner that may or may not be taller might be different. So you might want to try it first. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and come around and tie in a knot. And when we are not tying, we're tying in a double knot every single time, right? Because this is making sure that it is secure. So I'm going around, and I'm going to tie my knot. Okay. And for reference, I am about a size 16 to 18, and I have plenty of slack in this. And you can see this X here. This is where our baby is going to go. So this is important because this last pass or this last layer is what we're going to pull up last. So I'm going to pull this down so that I can have access to my X. So I'm going to find my baby now. Hopefully not unsupervised alone on a couch, but okay. So baby is going to be on my shoulder in a burp position. I'm using my body to stabilize the baby. So if you're used to burping this way, it's not that different. Make sure the baby's nice and high. I'm a high burper too, because I feel like the shoulder always is a much better positioner on the baby's stomach. So anyways, what I need to do though is I need to start with the pass that's on the inside. If I start with this one that's on the outside, I'm going to get trapped when I go to pull the wrap to spread out and support the back of the baby's knees, okay? So I am going to have the baby opposite the inner pass, and what I'm going to do is come from the outside in. And the reason why is instead of just doing this and stuffing the baby in, I'm going to welcome the baby's feet out, fine from birth. We started teaching feet and legs out really the last, I think, consistently the last 4 or 5 years, that feet and legs out from birth is perfectly appropriate. In fact, I find most babies prefer it because they have much more sense of security and autonomy in their core to move with us, but also so their feet aren't so tucked and or pressure underneath on their feet. All right, so hand through. We're going to load baby's foot in. And I'm not going to spread the wrap until last, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to put foot through, and then I'm going to shift to the other side, go through on the other pass, and welcome the baby's second foot, okay? So now this gives me the opportunity to sit the baby down on my body and say, self, is baby where I want the baby to be on my body? Is the baby all up in my neck, or is baby at a good height where I can kiss the top of the baby's head? Actually, this worked out pretty well. I may have done this a time or two. So this is another argument for practicing, right? And practice at home before you take your wrap out of the house. Or the advantage of stretch wraps is that you can pre-tie them, put baby in the car seat, please, and then when you get to your destination, you can pop the baby in and out easily, right? So that's a big advantage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the inner pass, and because I was careful about being nice and straight, I can find that inner edge, and this is the hardest part, is you're just going to pull it across baby's booty to the opposite knee, to the end of the knee, right? So you're reaching the back of the baby's knee here, okay? You can see it's nice and taut. So we're going to do the other side. I'm going to find that inner edge right here next to my neck, and I'm going to go across baby's booty, okay, up to baby's nape of baby's neck. So we're going to do a few options for adjusting your straps in a moment here, but I don't want any higher than the nape of the baby's neck. So you can see we're nice and straight. Baby is supported well from knee to knee, okay? And then our last step is going to be pulling where we started, that horizontal pass with the tag. We're going to pull that up and over the baby. The great part is often people rustle around and have trouble finding it. It's always going to be the one coming off of your back. So see the one coming off of my back right here? It's always going to be that one. So what I like to do is I like to keep it bunched so that I can tuck feet through. Feet through. We had a question, is this good for newborns? Yes, this is perfect for newborns, okay? I definitely recommend checking what the minimum weight requirement is, but keep in mind as long as baby is nice and high and tight with face visible, you're good to go with a newborn, typically. If your baby has underlying medical issues, please seek some help, okay? So here I am. I'm going to find the top edge again. See my tag? And I'm going to pull this up and over baby to the nape of the baby's neck, okay? So we should be nice and taut, fairly smooth. We shouldn't have a ton of looseness here. But because we're taut, we can now play with all these straps and divide the weight on our body ideally in a way that works for us. So I can pull it out, cap my shoulders, right? This is really comfortable for me. I really like to take the inside edge and fold it out 80s style. That's really my favorite way to wear a strap trap. So I tend to take the inside edge here and fold it outwards. Or you can do that on the side where baby's face is. So baby's face is nice and visible. Look at that. And what we see here is that nice rounded back, especially for a newborn or small infant. We are nice and supported. And really in your carrier, you should feel hands-free. That's the goal. The carrier is a tool to help you. And if you don't feel hands-free, please back up, tighten again, then load the baby again. So be willing to kind of give it a few tries first. I think third time, you typically have found your way when it comes to a wrap. So great advantage to this is I can peel, pull it down and across and open, and pop the baby out of the wrap easily. The downside of this poppable carry is that it is not easy to feed on the go. So if you have had trouble feeding in your wrap, your stretch wrap like this, you are not alone. It is one of the downsides of this style of carrier. If you are using it in another position, it's more similar to a woven wrap, which we're going to talk about later. It's much easier to drop the baby down on the go and feed, and then tighten and pull baby back up. But in this poppable carry, also called a pocket wrap cross carry, it is not easy to easily lower or tighten. Lower, raise baby, it's just a downside. So something to keep in mind. So when I want to get the baby out, right? Ready? Do. Peel, 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 like a banana. Peel, peel, peel. Do. Yes, I actually sing this song every time I do this. And when I teach. I have all my little noises, right? So now we have full access to the baby, and I can pull the baby out. What's funny is, as a culture, we stress so much about supporting the back of the baby's head, yet we pick babies up all the time under arms. Totally fine. Is that when baby's against our body, they're using our body as a support system. They can easily lay their head down, and it's perfectly fine to reach in and lift them out, okay? And the great part is, I'm totally ready to start again. So you'll see when I put my baby down that we are ready to go, right? Here's my X. Let's say I took a break. Maybe I popped baby out to feed or bottle feed, and then I want to pop the baby back in, or put baby back in the car seat, get to my second destination, and then I want to pop the baby back in. So pretty neat. Is this different than the way that you were taught, or maybe you did it a little bit of a different way? There are many methods in which to get a stretch wrap on. This just happens to be my favorite method, and a way that I think makes sense to a lot of folks. So feel free to have questions to leave me some questions here. Here we go. Okay. So I'm going to move on from stretch wraps, but I do want to encourage you, if you have a baby coming or have a newborn, to give a stretch wrap a try. It's also really easy to find these secondhand on Facebook Marketplace. Give it a good hot wash, okay, and it should be ready to go for your baby. One thing to keep in mind is that sometimes if the wraps are really thin, they can be a little bit more prone to holes. And if they're really thin, they can be a little bit less supportive. So that's something that you're weighing on that spectrum, because I hear lots of, oh, my wrap is hot. Okay, well, if it's a stretchy wrap, it has to have 3 layers. It's required to. Just like when you wear a katan and you have 1, 2, that preformed X, and the third cummerbund or the third seatbelt pass, that is required because it is a stretchy fabric. So in general, these can be a little bit warm, but I could make a great argument for if you have a baby up against you, it's warm, right? Because you're 2 little hot bodies. So this is a Moby Evolution. Here is a pretty thin version. This is a happy baby wrap. There it is, happy. And you can see how thin this is. Do you see through it? There we go. Okay. One of our questions is why their baby would dislike a carrier style. Babies are humans. They very much have preferences, in my opinion. And they tend to like various carrier styles during different stages of their life. Not to say that I definitely always recommend having an educator take a look or work with you, but babies have preferences. I think that most of them are born with preferences and personalities. So sometimes it's just the way that it is. This is one of the reasons why having a baby wearing group or sling library in your area, a consultant, someone that you can talk to, a good friend with a big carrier collection can be really helpful. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about ring slings. So if you tuned in earlier, I think it was last week, I did a video just on ring slings. So if you really want to nerd out with me about ring slings, I have a video dedicated to just that. So I have a lot of ring slings. I'm a big fan. I wear them a lot across one shoulder. I also wear them in a torso carry position because it is really comfortable for me. There are a lot of brands of ring slings, and they basically function the same, and I'll show you why. Okay, so here we go. Here's a woven sling. This is a Girasol made by Sleepy Baby Productions. Here is a Studio Technique, another great U.S. mom-owned brand. Okay, this one is you can see the little bit of a pattern here. It is linen and cotton. Do you see? It's kind of a herringbone pattern. Okay. And this is a Sakura Bloom, another mom-owned company, and this is a chambray or a cotton or a linen blend. If you want a simple linen, it's also a great purchase. Here you go. You can kind of see this is my little black dress of ring slings, this nice chambray. Okay. So what I am going to do is I'm going to teach with my tri-colored or three-colored sling because I find it's much easier to see all the colors when we tighten on our body. So if you're new to ring slings, you may consider something with stripes to help you get to know it. Same with a wrap or a woven wrap. So slings basically work like D-ring belts or an 80s belt, if I need to age myself, okay? So they have two rings attached to the end, here you go, and a piece of fabric, okay? They do come in various lengths, so if you are petite or plus size or tall or any of that, you may want to check the length of the sling. I like to err on the side of long because I can use the tail as a cover-up, but I, at my size, can wear pretty much any size sling. It's just going to affect how short or long the tail is. It's not going to make it not functional for me. But that's something to keep in mind when you're purchasing a sling. Some brands make one size, some make two sizes, and then some make custom sizes. So something to consider. So when I go to thread my sling, typically it comes threaded because they want new users of slings to be able to use the slings. I like to thread off my body. So I see a lot of videos where they thread on the body like this so that you can see all the colors, top, middle, and bottom, right? You can see all the colors here, and they go through the rings. This, for whatever reason, doesn't make sense to me. You're going to have to figure out what works for you. So I'm an off-the-body threader. So my preference is to hold the rings in one hand. I'm going to make sure that the fabric is not twisted, right? So I'm making sure that we're good. I'm going to put my hand through, and then I'm going to do a quick accordion. There we go. Accordion, not perfect, gets the job done. And we're going to make sure we are going through the two, just like that. Open up, and go back through the one. And then we're taking a look at our colors. We have our green, our yellow, and our blue. Okay, so we're not twisted. And then we're going to choose what side we want the rings to be on. So I am right hand dominant, so I prefer my rings on the left side so that my dominant arm is free. This is just preference. You can start on the other side, whatever feels most comfortable for you. It's definitely just about preference. I tend to start this way just because having your dominant hand can feel really important because you're going to be slightly immobilized on the side where the rings and the shoulder of the ring sling are. So we had a question about width. For the most part, they're about the same width. You'll sometimes see toddler ring slings for really big toddlers. Another misconception about these is that they're just for newborns. These are awesome from newborn age all the way through toddler age. I wear a ring sling with my 3-year-old Hazel fairly often for some good cuddles, right? So your relationship with baby wearing changes. That doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be using your carriers, right? So you just use it in a different way. So your tail, what hangs down here, this little part, is going to always be to the floor like a waterfall. I see lots of upside down slings in the wild, right? So what I'm going to do is put dominant arm through, so my right hand, because I'm going to duck in. And what this is going to do is make sure that the sling is on the shoulder that I want it to be. Let's see. Okay, so this is huge. Look at all the space we have. I could carry any one of you in here and your baby, right? So what we want to do is we want to tighten up to get ready for our babies. So I have lots of questions about weight distribution. So it is a one-shouldered carry. You may be switching back and forth depending on your familiarity and comfort level with the sling. This may not be your all-day wearing carrier. This may be your run errands or cuddles at home carrier. This may not be your one and done carrier. It just depends on your body, right? Also, we don't talk enough about during pregnancy and postpartum, we don't talk about our core and our pelvic floor, okay? These are really important things that affect the health of our backs. And in most countries around the world, pelvic floor health and seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist or PT is an important part of care to make sure that our backs are also in good shape postpartum. So I really encourage you, if you're having pain with any of your baby carriers, of course, get it checked out, make sure that you're wearing the carrier correctly. Little adjustments make all the difference, but also working on your core, making sure you're getting support, the right kind of core exercises for your body, getting a referral to PT if you can, yoga, Pilates, just really getting strong again. Can make a huge difference. So carrying a baby has it does a lot to our bodies, and it's something that I think we don't talk about enough. So in order to tighten the whole tube, I totally can pull the whole tail, okay, to get ready for my baby. And what's nice is with this tricolor, I can check out my green is my green, right? My top edge. My middle is my yellow. And my outside of my tail here, my blue is my blue, okay? So I want to be able to start fairly tight because I want to feel comfortable getting baby loaded in and not have to spend lots of time adjusting with a baby where I don't feel super secure holding them, right? So this is sort of setting yourself up for success when it comes to loading your baby in. So we had a question about weight limit. Most brands of, every brand that sells here in the United States especially, and I think pretty much the rest of the world has these limits too, you're going to have minimum and maximum weight limits. This is going to depend on the manufacturer and what they choose to test to on that upper end, slightly on the lower end as well. So you're going to want to check and see what your manufacturer recommends. In ring slings, it's typically 35 pounds. It's typically, but keep in mind, they don't gain at the same rate ongoing throughout childhood. So my 3.5-year-old is maybe 28 pounds. Okay. So I'm going to grab my baby, make sure, do I have enough room? I know it doesn't look like it, but I totally do. Okay. So I'm going to place baby on my open shoulder so that I can easily lower the baby down. So I'm also going to grab a drink. So give me a moment. If you see me a lot on videos or in photos, I typically have a coffee or a tea with me. It's just my way. It is my love language, as they say. Okay, get my baby. Hi, baby. Same baby. So baby's up on my shoulder in a bird position. I am using my body again as a support system. So, use it as an opportunity to get the baby nice and loaded, nice and supported, okay? And my rings, you'll notice, are about at collarbone position. I used to say corsage position, but I think whole generations of parents now have never worn a corsage on their body. They've only ever worn it on a wrist, so they don't know what I'm talking about. So the reason why is because this spread here acts as an anchor. So when I pull, it doesn't end up all up in my neck. I see a lot of ring slings out in public where it really looks like it hurts because the ring sling shoulder isn't spread. What this also does by spreading it across here is that it aids in spreading the ring sling across my back as well. What it also does is, number one, act as an anchor. Number two, distribute the weight well, right? So, baby on my shoulder. I'm going to come from underneath, just like I did with my stretch wrap. If you don't have enough room, the cool part is all you're doing is lifting up to give yourself a little bit of room. It's pretty cool. You don't have to take the carrier off. So I'm going to reach underneath. I'm going to grab feet. In most new babies, especially if you're using this with a newborn or small baby, but really they get used to this and they sort of know what to expect, is that they're nice and squishy and able to squat really easily, right? So I'm able to guide their feet through. And again, we recommend feet and legs out from birth. There are certain circumstances with really teeny babies or preemies or for medical reasons that feet would be in. But for most babies, healthy term babies, feet out, fine from birth. But what it also does is help them use that core. So what I'm going to do before I pull the fabric up is I'm going to sit the baby down. So do you remember how we did this in our wrap where the baby was totally sitting on the fabric in a nice squatted position? All right. So what this does is it helps us to achieve a seat. And when it comes to ring slings, all we hear is seat, 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 gotta have a good seat. Yes. We want knees high, booty low. If you can cup baby's booty in your hand, you have a good seat. If baby looks like they're starfish to you, then you don't have a seat, right? So we want baby to be nice and seated, similar to a hammock. That's the goal. Booty low, knees high, and that's what helps keep them supported, right? So we used to, back in the day, I saw a lot of reaching in to pull the fabric up to create a seat, but all that does is make a loose pocket on the inside. When we sit baby down like this, we'll realize that the bottom edge, or the blue, is basically a straight line behind baby's knees, up and underneath them. So we want that to be a straight line. So if you are at this point and you say, self, my rings are a little bit low, what's really cool is you can really easily pull the fabric up and adjust before we commit to pulling the rest of the fabric up. So it sort of gives you a great head start as well. So I'm very happy with this position. For newborns, they often have their hands by their face, right? This is another argument for not putting mittens on them. Just cut their nails. I know it's scary because their hands smell like amniotic fluid, gives them that rush of oxytocin and gives them that really good, feel good and calm down feeling, okay? So if I want to pull that fabric up to baby's nape of baby's neck, if I hook my thumb on the side here, I'll always find that top edge. You could also do it here if you want to, if that's easiest for you. For me, it's over here. So I'm going to hook thumb in, and this is the hardest part, especially starting tight, but you're going to pull that fabric up to the nape of baby's neck. So I know it looked like we started super tight, but look, we totally still have slack left to tighten. You can pull your shoulder down if you need to, get situated, and get all ready. And then all this slack, you need to find it and pull it around. So I hear lots of, my baby ended up lower, several minutes or hours later than when we started, okay? This is usually because there's sneaky slack back here, and then as they walk and move, it migrates forward, so the baby is then lower, okay? So we want to use our hands, and we want to move as much of the fabric around as we can and feed it to the rings. And that makes it a lot easier for us to pull the fabric. If you want to support under baby's booty, lift up a little bit, that's also a great way to take some tension off of these rings and tighten down. You'll see lots of pulling towards the baby. That's fine. That's not my methodology. That's one way. I like an arcing motion. That's what feels best for me. And then I'm going to go across my tail, across my colors, a little at a time, okay? Till we are nice and snug. Check the bottom too. Do you have looseness here? Now you can see. Do you see your blue? I'm going to move tail so you can see. Do you see the blue here? No. So that whole bottom third is really what's up and underneath the baby, right? So we have our nice rounded back. This whole third is under the baby. I can move any slack around. So see the slack? I found it here. Moved it under booty. And then I find my blue on my tail and pull it out. So one of my tips is be careful to not over tighten this bottom edge, okay? I see this a lot with new ring sling users because they're scared and they perceive the bottom edge to be what's holding the baby's weight. So this isn't actually true. It's the center of the wrap or the ring sling that is supporting the weight of the baby. If I were to pull all of that bottom edge out, the baby wouldn't and shouldn't fall. I know that that sounds scary, but I'm going to do a little demo. Don't do this, okay? Is that what is holding the weight of the baby is not the bottom edge. If we are nice and supported around baby's back, that is what's holding the weight of the baby. This is simply a guide for the baby's knees, okay? Cool, huh? So you'll see I'm not doing this, okay? We don't want to pin the baby's head down. We want lots of oxygen. As high as we're going to go is going to be the nape of the baby's neck. If baby is well supported, then they can practice moving their heads, right? So the really cool part about a sling like this is that all of this is real estate and fair game as far as where to wear the baby. For many with a newborn, they have a tendency to want the baby a little bit more centered on their body. This is actually not my preferred position on the body because for whatever reason, we all have different anatomy and it's not comfortable for me. I have a tendency to wear slightly off center. That's what's most comfortable for me. You're going to have to experiment a little bit and figure out where your spot is. As baby gets older, they typically start to move to your hip. And then you can also back carry with these if you're confident in your wearee, right? Because you don't have lots of reinforcements at that seat. You need to know that. I lower baby down to feed on the go and feed upright. If you are sideline and feeding at home, this is the same position. So it isn't that different. You just may need to practice a little bit getting baby lowered down. And then when you're finished, you want to make sure that you raise baby back up and then re-tighten down. What do you think? Good? And a note is if you have a seat popper, a baby that likes to throw their legs down, making sure that they have a good deep seat and being right up above your hip is one of the best ways to make sure that they can stay supported in that seat, okay? So let me double check on our Facebook Live. For whatever reason, it decided to die. It should have been plugged in. Give me one sec. Okay, are you there? Sorry about that. Okay, so ring slings. Great price point. They're not super expensive. Great for newborns all the way through toddlerhood. Another great feature about them, besides feeding on the go and all these other things, is that they're very light and cool. They're one layer across the baby. You also have a nice built-in cover, right? So that if you need to feed on the go, or you have one of those distractible babies that just doesn't want to take a nap, it's one of the best ways. So you can lower this, and I like to tuck in to bra strap. Cool, huh? Right? So, question about what about facing them the opposite way? That is really not the strength of ring slings. If you want a forward-facing carrier, I would recommend getting a buckle carrier. There is a way to tuck baby's feet inside and carry forward-facing out. I find it super awkward and not easy to accomplish. So if you want baby to see, I would move baby further over to your hip. So baby is much further over on your body, so that a curious baby can see and participate, right? And be nosy, right? I call them nosy babies because that's kind of how they are. I've had many of those. Questions about ring slings? Lots of fabrics, lots of brands. You want that nice spreadable shoulder. There is a difference in material and in length, but overall an advantage is this fits every body and every baby. So this really isn't just for one body type or body style. This is really something that works for everyone. So this may not be your one and done carrier. This may be your running errands, quick, easy to use carrier. Okay. So to get baby out, I like to lift up. That takes slack off the rings. And so I lift up just a little. So my secret is the less you lift up, it's going to be pretty much set for the next time you put it on. So basically, the less you can get away with loosening, it's going to pretty much be pre-loaded and ready for you to go, especially if this is a carrier that you are keeping in your diaper bag. If you're traveling with it, they're awesome for airplane seats, right? Because you don't have anything around your torso or working from home. So here's your baby. Cool. So I'm sorry I'm not going to show a back carry today because I consider that to be fairly advanced. And this is a 101, but we can definitely do some back carries in another video if you would like. Or I can link you, I'll link in the comments to a back carry in a ring sling. It's not something that I do a lot because mine are seat poppers, and it's not something that I tend to do a lot. But you can absolutely also wear this in a torso carry, right? So baby can be supported on your torso. Cool, huh? Load baby in. This is what I do a lot for working from home or being around the house. I do a lot of torso carries. Reach through. Baby's feet. Do I find that you need another ring sling type for toddlers? I think that that's a trick question for me because I'm a super dedicated ring sling enthusiast. Well, arguably all carrier enthusiast. So I have a tendency to have a little bit heavier weight fabrics for toddlers. I do. So I tend to choose a carrier that has a little more oomph, a little bit thicker fabric, so a reed hot, than when I have a newborn. So, all right, so this is a torso carry with a ring sling. I know that this seems like, I'm sure that this is not something you've seen done a lot, but this is actually one of my favorite things. So I do this a lot with newborns. So this means that baby is face visible, and you can still adhere to your color. So if you need to tighten your green, that's your top edge. Your center, that's your yellow. And your bottom edge is your blue. Blue. Cool. Torso carry. Woo. Okay, we had some enthusiasm for torso carries. Question about arms out. Yes, when they get older, they're going to worm their arms out. You're not going to have any choices. They have a tendency to escape with their arms, whether you like it or not. Just keep in mind is the more of their body that's outside of the carrier, any carrier, the more it's going to weigh on your body. So keeping their back nice and supported, their seat nice and supported, this goes a really long way toward comfort. So if your baby is leaning a lot, you definitely need to reassess how the carrier fits and how tight it is. So I just, with a small baby, especially since this is a 101, they have a tendency to be younger and have their arms in. So, okay, so get the carrier off. Loosen up, reach in. You can pull baby out. You can step out of it. Either way, whatever feels right to you. So I always have one of these in my diaper bag and or in the car. The nice part about modern ring slings is that they are made with aluminum rings, so those rings don't get hot. They are made by Sling Ring, slingrings.com. All right, step right out of my ring sling, easy peasy. Fabrics, linen, cotton, silk is an option, more expensive. I don't like the way it feels, but some people swear by it and think it's very, very soft and durable. Okay. Next up, I'm going to talk to you about woven wraps or non-stretch wraps. Originally, I was going to do this in order, but you know what happens. Okay, so I'm going to prep a woven wrap the same way that I start out prepping my stretch wrap. This is important because if you've used a Moby wrap or a Solly or anything like that, and you love the feel of wrapping, it has a lot of the same kind of skill set and qualities in that it's a custom fit every time. But the advantage of a woven fabric is that you can really use it from birth all the way through toddlerhood. Stretch wraps are limited for newborns and small infants as a general rule. So if you want to keep wrapping, a woven wrap is a great investment. It really isn't as hard as it looks. If you've wrapped before, it is really not that different. You just have to be a little bit more careful about tightening. The other advantage is that you could really use it to carry in hundreds of carry styles. So as your baby grows, facing in, hip, back, you have dozens of options to cater it to your body or any caregivers you may be sharing the carrier with. So I'm going to use a striped one again so you can see what I'm doing. This is a girasol or girasol. I use a lot of didymos. This is peacocks, aka fowl, aka chickens. They do come in sizes, so you'll want to figure out what your base size is. If you are an average dress size 10 to 12, 14, you may like a base size 6, 7 if you're plus size, 5 if you are more on the petite side, but really, the longer the wrap is, the more carry options you have. So, anyone use a woven wrap before? Anyone a fan of a woven wrap? I rarely see woven wraps in public, especially here in Los Angeles. But just keep in mind that really all cultures, all indigenous cultures, all of Africa, really used a non-stretch fabric to carry their baby, basically, since the beginning of time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my center again. So here you go. Do you see my center? Cool. So I am going to start with my center. Same prepping method as my stretch wrap. I'm going to give myself plenty of length. Swing under elbow and up and over the opposite shoulder. So I'm just holding the top edge. Okay? Then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So you can see, give myself plenty of length. I'm going to go under elbow and up and over the opposite side. Okay. So, because this isn't stretchy and I need to tighten it around the baby, I'm going to put the baby in this pocket, and my X is going to end up on the outside instead of tucked through on the inside. I'm going to tighten up a little bit to make way for baby. Just give myself a little bit of a head start. I'm going to tip this down a little bit. Can you see? Okay. All right. So, nice and straight. My inside edge here is blue, and it coordinates with the top edge here that's blue. Then my outside edge here is a teal color, and that coordinates with my teal color that's here at the bottom. So, I'm going to find my baby. Okay, baby. And same idea, right? I am going to keep baby up on my shoulder. So let me save my video. Give me one moment. And I'm going to go live again. And this. Sorry about that. Okay. And it's not letting me. Hold on. Thanks, Instagram. If it's not one thing, it's something else. Okay. I guess it is not going to let me go live. Okay. All right, I guess we're finishing here. So what you're going to want to do is keep baby up on your shoulder, and you're going to want to reach through and guide feet. Okay? So I'm going to do this and guide feet through. Okay? And remember how we sat baby down on our sling? We're going to center baby on our body and do the exact same thing. So baby is going to sit on our fabric. Okay? And this really helps us determine where baby is on our body. So I'm going to try one more time. Come on, Instagram. Help me out here. Nope, doesn't want to. Okay. So I'm going to sit baby down, and then I want to pull the fabric up baby's back just to the nape of baby's neck, okay? So what I'm going to do is find the top edge. Here it is, under my armpit again, and pull it up. Okay. So Kristen said, roughly how old is the baby doll you're using? I say probably like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. This is about 7 pounds is what this baby weighs. Okay, so I'm going to now tighten. So this is one of the hardest parts, which I really don't think is too bad, especially if you see someone do it or you practice, right? Is just making sure that this across the baby's back is tight. So I'm going to grab the wrap, and you're going to have to kind of play around with how far it is from your body, but I'm going to pull out and away. And do you see how it's tightening here? This opposite side over here. And then I'm going to move across a little at a time. I'm going to do it slow. Okay. And the cool part is it's not stretchy, so it's not going to bounce back. If you want to pin it, you can pin it, but I'm going to do the opposite side. And I'm going to pull out and away, okay? So you might have to experiment with where your hand is. If I'm too far away, I don't get a lot of traction. If I'm too close, I don't. So I have to figure out where my sweet spot is. I have pretty short arms for my size. So I'm going to go all the way across, making sure that I'm nice and taut across baby's back, okay? So what we're looking for is that nice support across our back, right? That X. You can tighten up a little more if you want to. Baby's nice and supported. You can check and see if you have any looseness that directly correlates to this right here. Okay, right? So this is your chance now to finish. So if you have a shorter wrap, you can tie right here and be done. You can tie a double knot under baby's booty. I'm using a longer wrap. This is a size 7, 5.2 meters. So I'm going to cross under baby's booty, go under legs, and tie in the back. Always a double knot. So because I'm using a woven or a non-stretch wrap, what I'm able to do is just have one pass across the baby. It's not a 3-layer like a stretch wrap, like a Moby wrap or a Solly, right? So in some ways it's a lot cooler, but what most people report is that it is far more supportive for them because you don't have that stretch factor. You can also really spread it out and leave this open with a small baby so it's nice and cool. And you're able to get lots of airflow. It's also totally customizable because I can wrap this in so many different ways, but I can also double up on support if need be, okay? So if I need to create more support, I can spread this out. Right? All the way across. And have this spread out versus straight down, right? So these are two different ways that I could have my wrap. 1, 2, 3. Just like that, and have more support across the baby's back, right? This is also much easier to feed on the go. So if I need to feed baby, I can easily untie my wrap. Lower the baby down, give myself some slack, right? So I say hop, 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 give yourself some slack. To breast position, and then tie off again. So it's going to depend on your anatomy, what direction you face. You might need to give baby a little bit of support in the beginning, especially if you're a new feeder, a new breastfeeder, or your baby is young and doesn't quite have head and neck control yet. But what's great is I can really easily get baby positioned on breast, even if that's slightly off to the side, and finish off. So now I can easily be on the go. Do, do, do. I can support the baby if I need to. Right? Do, do, do. You have lots of options. So the advantages of a woven wrap is pretty endless. I know that it can seem like a really high learning curve, and I totally understand that, but it is one of the most flexible carrier styles, particularly if you have back problems, existing back problems or neck problems, and you need something that will really last you and fit lots of caregivers. So it's a good investment. This one is 100% cotton. They do come in many different variations of linen, silk, camel, cashmere, whatever it is that you're into. I tend to recommend starting with cotton because it's almost impossible to kill it. It's really easy to care for it and fairly inexpensive. So it's really easy to get woven wraps now. It used to be really challenging. I remember having to order wraps from overseas back in the day, 10 years ago. And now you have lots of resources. And once again, secondhand groups, baby wearing swap groups. Our local one is SCBW, SoCal Baby Wears, space swap, if you want something local. Okay, to unload my baby, I just untied. I can either reach in or I could just full on unfurl. Great. Good? Questions about woven wraps? Yes, no? Cool. All right, do I recommend any particular brand? The one I just put on it is a Girasol or a Hirasol, a German company. Didymos, Lenny Lamb, Techni, T-E-K-H-N-I. There are so many fantastic brands of woven wraps. There isn't really one in particular that I recommend, but I do recommend picking out something that makes you feel good and is in your budget, right? So something that you'd want to put on and you'd want to use. If you don't like the way it looks, you're not going to wear it. So I definitely recommend picking out something that you love, especially because it can kind of be your one and done carrier. So let's see. All right. So next, I'm going to talk about made-eyes or Asian-inspired carriers, Asian origin carriers. And this is one of the carrier styles that I think is the most flexible in fitting lots of babies, lots of bodies. It's custom like a wrap, but has some of the ease of use factors of a buckle carrier. So I'm going to show you a few varieties. There are several brands that are available and easy to get. The first one I'm going to show you is called a Catbird Baby. They're also a mom-owned U.S. company. And what makes them a Made-I is that they are a panel with 4 straps. So we would not have any of our modern buckle carriers if it weren't for Made-I's, okay? Right? Pretty neat. So they are simple in their design, but that's the beauty of them. That's the advantage. You don't have to have a lot of adjustments, bells and whistles, etc., to make a Made-I work for you. So they are worn upside down. If you have ever worn an apron or worked in a restaurant and you needed to shorten it and you roll, that's how Made-I's work. So I'm going to go upside down, just like this. You can see there's short straps, that's your waist straps. And there's long straps, that's the straps that are going to go around your body. And what's also great is they don't have any structure. This is also what comes down to a big misunderstanding that padding makes it comfortable. This is totally not true. It's kind of like having really well-made nice shoes, but they don't fit your feet, right? So of course the carrier style needs to lay flat on your body and distribute the weight well. So while a buckle carrier and lots of padding might work for you, it might not work for you. So really one isn't better than the other. So if I'm going to be using this with a smaller baby, I'm going to wear it high because I want the baby to end up high on my body. So I'm going to roll it to an appropriate height for that baby. So I can roll in, and probably for my small baby here, I'm going to go one more time, okay? And then I'm going to tie in the back. So I'm going to take those 2 straps and just tie a double knot, just like my wrap. Same idea. So what we're going to do is load the baby in the panel, but we're also going to create an X on our back, just like the stretch wrap, just like the woven wrap. So a lot of the concepts are the same. By rolling it, what we're also able to do is really easily squish the panel together to be able to fit the appropriate width for a baby. So this is already able to really easily be moved over so that it can fit between baby's legs, okay? So I'm going to find my baby. Baby, where'd you go? Okay. Here we go. Now baby, we're checking, is baby at a good height? Yes, very happy with that. So what we're able to do is pull the panel up. Let's see. We had some questions about other woven carries. Yes, I'm happy to link you in a little bit when I get finished. So I'm able to pull the panel up to nape a baby's neck. Baby's nice and centered on my body. And then I'm going to do 1 strap at a time so that I can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it lay flat. I see a lot of grabbing and pulling into necks. That looks very uncomfortable. Instead, what I'm going to do is pull to the ground and then across. And so I'm going to turn around so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, ready? I'm going to pull down and then across, rather than just grab it and pull. This really affects where that X ends up on my back, and it also really affects how centered this strap is on my shoulder. And then I'm going to switch hands and do the opposite side. Opposite side. Okay. Switch hands. Pull down so it's nice and anchored, centered on my shoulder, and pull around. Okay. So this is what's really great, is this one also has the ability to fold down the headrest. Some of them have hoods like buckle carriers. Each brand kind of has its own features. I like the Catbird Baby because it's long, and I make long torso babies, so it also lasts me a long time. But what I'm able to do is really easily raise and lower the height of the baby, right? Just by manipulating these straps here. So just like feeding on the go in a woven wrap, it's quite easy for me to hop the baby down into feeding position and tie off, right? So you can either tie under booty, just like a woven wrap, or you can go under legs and tie in the back. So I'm going to raise my baby back up, because we're done feeding now. I'm going to cross under booty, under legs, and tie in the back. So for me, I am about a size 16, 18, but I am also 7 months pregnant. So my straps are a little bit short in the back, but that's no big deal. As long as you can tie either in the front or the back, either is fine. So for me, right now, I'll show you, I'm going to tie under booty. Boop. Boop. And done. What do you think? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. These are fantastic if you want a carrier that's going to last you newborn through toddler that isn't as bulky as a buckle carrier. If you're on the petite side and a lot of buckle carriers feel heavy, bulky, a lot for you, this is an excellent choice. If you're switching between multiple caregivers, this is also an excellent choice. The beauty is really in the simplicity, so it's fantastic. So I'm going to now unload my baby. And these are also great for back carries also. You can also get the baby nice and high on the back. So I'm going to lower baby down and just make sure I'm supporting the baby's back. So make sure you're always holding the baby when you unload. And done. That's the whole carry. There are also lots of versions of this that are made from wrap fabric or are wider straps. This is definitely personal preference. You may find that the wider straps divide the weight a little bit more. So just as an example, here is a May-Dye by Babylonia, and it has very wide straps. So you can see, just like a wrap, has those nice wide straps. And these can really help distribute the weight well. So definitely preference. Cool, right? So the carrier style that we've been working on is called a May-Dye, M-E-H space D-A-I. It is a very common carrier style in Asia. And it has a lot of flexibility for your family, so something to consider. Catbird Baby is the brand I just tried on that was canvas. This is made by Babylonia. There are also versions by Moby that are able to be purchased, and Infantino has a budget version called the Sash, which is a fine starter May-Dye. If you also want something in the middle, or you want a newborn-friendly carrier, Ergo Baby just released this carrier called the Embrace. And while it has buckles, it's actually based on a May-Dye. So it crosses in the back. There's no buckle to clip behind you. It is worn upside down, just like a May-Dye. And you can roll it for a small baby. The advantage of it being a newborn carrier is that it's a soft jersey fabric. So this is like a first year only carrier. It can be worn inward facing and outward facing. So I'm going to talk about buckle carriers next, but just as an example, I put all carrier waists on backwards so that I can see what I'm doing. And this is so that when I'm teaching, I can also show you the anatomy, right? So almost all buckle carrier styles have this little rubber band now, and that's called a safety catch. And that's so you're putting your male end through the safety catch, hearing it click, and then you're pulling your tail out and over the safety catch. That's so that it works. If something were to happen, it would catch and it wouldn't undo. So being that I am quite long torsoed, for me, wearing it with a small baby, making sure it's snug to the body, you can see it's upside down, just like a May-Dye, right? I'm going to load my baby in. So, baby. And what's nice is this nice stretchy fabric, it really easily stretches to fit. So there's no real adjustments that need to be made in order for it to fit for a newborn. the feet are always on the outside or out of the carrier. So I'm going to pull this up to the nape of the baby's neck. And then just like with my Mayday, I'm going to do one at a time. So one on my shoulder, switch hands, reach around, and here's the difference. Why technically this is a hybrid, on the side. Ready? Boop. And then remembering that this opposite shoulder and this are connected, right? So making sure that we know that if we pull here, we pull the slack out, we know that it directly correlates to that opposite shoulder, right? So any looseness. And then other side. Okay, switch hands, pull it around. And buckle. Make sure we're feeding all the slack out, so pull all the way around and make sure we're getting that slack out before we tighten down. Okay. Make sure baby is nice and centered. So you can see these nice stretchy shoulder straps to divide the weight well. X in the back. And it also makes it really easy for me to feed on the go. I just lift up and lower the baby down to breast position. So if you're looking for a super straightforward newborn carrier that kind of has the best of both worlds of a Mayday and a buckle carrier, this is the Ergo Embrace. So this just came out about maybe 6 months ago. Okay. And if you also like this kind of idea of a hybrid, Didymos also makes a carrier called the Diddy Click with a K, K-L-I-C-K, that has the buckle waist with those nice wide straps of a Mayday. So I'll show you what that looks like too. There you go. Now you may notice this is where we're going to start talking about seat adjustments. As a culture, like especially within buckle carriers, we have started to move away from infant inserts. What this means is that most buckle carriers now adjust across the width to fit a newborn straight away. There's no extra pieces needed in order to fit your newborn. So that's fantastic. So this one has Velcro, can you see? And to widen and loosen the seat, I just reach in and loosen, and I can pull it across to increase the width of it. Pretty cool, right? So now you can see that really narrow seat is now nice and wide. So it really can grow with you all the way across. So the question is this being recorded so we can reference it later? Yes, I will download and share this. This should be evergreen content that we'll keep on our page. Okay, so I'm going to be using it with my doll. It also cinches here at the seat, so it shortens the body a little bit. So I'm using it with my doll. So I would want to move the seat over. Right? And I can switch the seat. Cool, huh? So just like a buckle carrier, you'd go around your waist. This one is worn right side up. Opposite side for me. So here's your safety catch. You're going through. Okay, so making sure you have enough room. You lift up on your male end, it should just let out of all your buckle carriers. You're going to feed through and clip. Okay. Pull your tail out and over. So you do want this to be snug. I'm upside down. Okay. All right, I'll start over. You can see I just got this really quick. Awaiting new baby coming. So I have not played with it a lot, but okay, here we go. Through, rubber band, very quick, tail out. Now we're ready for baby. You can adjust the height on your body depending on what you need. Here's my body panel. This has a hood attached to it. Right? Fine, baby. Load baby onto body, and then pull panel up to the nape of the baby's neck. And then we're going to do one strap at a time. So one strap. Pull across. Switch hands. Second strap. And I promise when you are getting to know your carrier, I'm taking my time, is that you will get fast at it. That is every carrier style. Promise. I know it seems like buckle carriers or what you're used to is going to be the fastest, but it really has more to do with what you're used to, not necessarily the carrier style, in my opinion. So you definitely want to get to know your carrier, and that comes with time, right? So make sure I'm nice and snug. I can either tie under booty here and be done, or I can go under legs and tie in the back. And with this one, I have plenty of length. So for me, make sure baby is centered, straps are spread. Pretty cool, right? Halfway in between, a hybrid of a buckle carrier and a Mayday. Okay, next we are going to talk specifically about buckle carriers. Buckle carriers have continued to become more and more complicated. I've seen user era buckle carriers go higher and higher. This is because we want buckle carriers to be all the things. We want them to be newborn carriers to they leave for college. We want them to have no inserts and adjust width and adjust height. We want them to have neck padding. We want them to have hoods. We want them to have pockets. We want them to be cool. And we want them to be inexpensive. No, really. We can have some of those things, but it is very difficult for buckle carriers to be all of the things. And this is important to keep in mind why you might want other baby carrier styles, is that it just does a better job at something more specific. So instead of a jack of all trades, master of none, your buckle carrier can serve your hiking boot purpose when you're out hiking and being active, and you use your sling or your wrap when you're cuddly at home or working from home or any of those lovely things. So I'm going to show you a variety of buckle carrier styles, but really my goal is to give you some fit tips, because there is no such thing as the best buckle carrier. This doesn't exist. If you hear someone say this, you should automatically be suspicious. It is about the right buckle carrier for you. And keep in mind that all buckle carriers are built on average US dress sizes. So if you're on the petite end, if you're on the plus end, you might have to try some other carrier styles or be open to that. Or find carriers that make specific sized carriers for your body type. So I am going to show an Ergo Baby Omni, which is one of the most popular buckle carrier styles, a Tula Explorer, and then also show you what some of the newer pared down buckle carriers look like. They're more like Maydays. That's the inspiration. That more pared down, lighter carrier. Okay. So this is an Ergo Baby Omni. Okay. So this is their latest carrier style. And on the inside of the waist, you'll notice it has lower back support. But you'll notice on the inside of the waist, it has tabs. So do you remember how we just saw the Velcro that slid across for the Diddy Click? This is how you adjust the seat. So if you have a newborn, you'd be starting on this narrow tab. If your baby is bigger, or as your baby grows, you're going to be moving the seat out. So you're not doing this very often, just as your baby grows. And what this does is it increases the width or the size of the seat that the baby sits in. And so no infant insert needed, no extra parts needed, you just adjust as you go. It also has buttons on the front. You can see that there's a second button that is hiding here on the inside on both sides. Okay, where are you? There you are. Okay, this is solely for forward facing. This is when your baby meets forward facing guidelines. It's not about unassisted sitting. It is not about 6 months of age. It's about meeting milestones. Your baby has to have complete head and neck control, fit in the carrier panel correctly, and have chin over the top of the panel. This is what we're looking for forward facing now. This is usually not until around 4.5, 5, 6 months, sometimes later, depending on your baby, if your baby's more on the petite side, or shorter torso, right? So it is more than just about a magic weight limit. So when you get something like an Omni, the head support is folded inward. Do you see how it's on the inside? Like that, and then it is tabbed here on the outside. Okay, so if your baby has decent head and neck control, you would be flipping that out. So you would be unbuttoning it like this. And flipping it around. So this is one of the things I see out in public the most, is that they leave the head insert or the head support on the inside because they don't know they're supposed to flip it out. You only really need it on the inside while baby's really, really teeny to help support, right? So I'm going to leave mine on the outside. So this has backpack style straps, but it also has buckles on the front. This is a feature of your buckle carrier that you should know where the buckles are. Are these buckles able to be unbuckled? If they are, it means it can hip carry. If your buckles are on the front, it means that you can cross the straps. If they are back here, it means it's not allowed to have cross straps. So one advantage is if you're on the plus end body style, is that if the buckles are on the front, it's a lot easier for you to tighten and loosen if the buckles are on the front than if they're way back behind you. So that's something to keep in mind when you're choosing a buckle carrier style, okay? So I'm going to affix my waist, and I'm going to do it backwards again. This one is a double adjust because it has this lower back support. What that means is that it loosens and tightens both ways so that I can get this centered on my body. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the safety. Here it click. Pull my tail out. Swirl it around like a bra. And another thing I see a lot in public is a lot of really droopy waistbands facing down to the ground. This is going to cause you a lot of back pain. You really want to make sure that it's as parallel to the ground as possible and that it's really snug to your body. Otherwise, it's not going to help you. So while these were originally designed to go just above the hips, where that little iliac crest or divot is, if you are wearing a buckle carrier with a newborn and you want them to end up at kissable height, you likely have to wear your waist a little bit higher. So that's something to keep in mind. It's going to depend on your buckle carrier. So with my straps here, I'm going to load the baby in and then put the straps on. This is one of the #1 complaints about buckle carriers is reaching behind a clip that you can't reach. If these are loose, you should easily be able to clip, but also keep in mind that your chest clip slides up and down on a rail. okay? I don't really know any that don't do this anymore. So they all slide up and down. And you want to make sure they're about even, because we want them about shoulder blades and even with the top of the carrier. All right, so I'm going to grab my baby. Center my baby on my body. And if your carrier has a really deep bucket seat like this one does, I really like to have one hand in between to make sure baby is seated well in that buckle or in that bucket seat, because I want to pull the panel up to the nape of the baby's neck so that we're really meeting baby where we want baby to be supported, right? So we're really utilizing this nice buckety seat. Now, granted, my baby does not have a nice exaggerated booty. So I think in some ways with real babies, it's almost easier to see what we're looking for. But see how loose my shoulder straps are? Totally okay, because that's going to help us reach our chest clip when it comes to reaching behind our back, right? So I'm going to put one strap on, okay? And then I'm going to switch hands and put my second strap on. Second strap, okay. All right, see where we are now? So now is when we're going to need to reach our chest clip. If your straps are really tight, you're not going to be able to reach it. If your straps are loose, you should be able to track hands back pretty easily and find your chest clip. Clear? Okay. Don't pull on the end here because we want this to fall or rotate into place as we pull to tighten. So instead of just pulling against the baby's back, the more we rotate the slack around, the easier it's going to be to pull that slack out. All right. I can tell someone's been messing with my buckle here because that wasn't the last of it. Okay. So you can see I'm tight on this side now. This side, do you see all my looseness? So if it's feeling real bulky on your shoulders when you wear your buckle carrier, practice feeding the slack around. Do you see all the looseness I found? And tighten down. Okay. So my baby is nice and supported, high on my body. Can I see my baby's face? I can. All right. And so you can always loosen here. This is what's amazing. Lift up. Let's see. Right? Loosen and tighten right here. Advantage of having them here instead of back here. And that also, it makes it really easy for you to feed in the carrier. So that means if you want to feed, you just lift. I'm not unbuckling. I'm just lifting on the buckle. And I'm moving baby down to breast position. Now, depending on your body type, torso height, baby size, you might also need to loosen your waist a little bit. I don't do this, but I know many folks that do. So what's great is you could feed. Almost all buckle carriers have a hood now, right? So this one hides in the pocket. And in order to affix it, it just has a simple snap at the top. So I feel with my finger and press down. Okay. If I can get it to press down. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then here's my other side. All right. Now we're rocking and rolling with our hood. We can feed, or if it's sunny out, and then when we're done, just lift up, roll it up and put it back in our pocket if we want to. Okay. And then baby's done feeding now, so we're gonna lift back up. See all the looseness we have now? We need to feed it back around and tighten up. What do you think? Good? Great. Okay. So minor adjustments make a really big difference when it comes to your buckle carrier. Your chest clip placement is really important. You can see I have it around shoulder blade position. Your chest clip doesn't bear weight. This chest clip is this little guy right here. Okay? It doesn't bear weight. What it does is keep the shoulder straps on your body, even on your body. If it's too tight, you're going to end up with carrier all up in your neck. It's going to hurt. If it's too high, all the weight is going to be coming down instead of nice and even across your body. So you want it in that shoulder blade position. Same goes for your shoulder straps. If that chest clip is really loose, your shoulder straps are going to sit too far out on your body. And then it's not going to bear a lot of weight, so it's not going to do its job. So we want to make sure that these are nice and centered. If this is all up in your armpit, then these are too tight. And likely your chest clip is also out of position. So we want to make sure that our shoulder strap to chest clip ratio is correct when it comes to comfort with all buckle carrier styles. This isn't about Ergo Baby, it's about whatever buckle carrier you have. It has that chest clip to strap ratio, right? So what I also want to show you is crossable straps. So just like we did with the Embrace and a Made-Eye and technically also our wraps, you have the option, if the buckles are right here, to cross the straps instead. So this is totally just personal preference. So once again, we're going to get the baby out, we're going to loosen, and if we do that, where's our chest clip? Right there, easy to reach. Unclip, support baby, switch hands, okay? So I'm going to put baby down just for a second so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm going to unclip these so they're loose. Okay. So now I'm going to put the baby in the same way, but instead of doing that backpack style where I have to reach for my chest clip, I'm going to cross the straps. So if you struggle with reaching behind you, if you have some mobility or limb differences, this may be a really great option for you. My husband had shoulder surgery, so he much prefers carriers that have crossable straps as an option. So something to think about. Also taller, wider folks, sometimes this makes a huge difference in how they get the carrier on. So I'm going to put it on my shoulder, switch hands just like I did a Made-Eye, and I'm going to bring it around and clip. Do you have any buckle carrier questions for me? Are you still out there? I know this is a long class, almost 2 hours. Okay, so just remember, this is tightening over here, right? So making sure you're feeding any looseness around to tighten down. Then I feel already pretty secure. So for the new buckle carrier users, this is also really helpful. I'm going to do strap over, switch hands. Sometimes I lean, give myself that strap. There we go. Okay, switch hands. And clip. Cool, huh? All right. Now, I'm loose. Tighten. Okay. So baby is still well positioned in the carrier. It's easy for me to loosen in and drop baby down to feed, but I have crossed straps instead. Cool. All right, let's get baby out so I can show you a few more buckle carrier styles before we go. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments. I will try to get to them if I can, but I will go back and answer them, so you will not be alone. Or you could always message our page, and we can do fit checks. We can take a look at your photo. If you want us to check your fit, this is one way we can help when not having in-person meetings. So if you're unsure about your carrier fit, please feel free to message us, okay? And we'll take a look. Okay, so I'll show you. These are both Tula carriers. This is their Explorer carrier. That means this one faces outward. That's another factor or feature that you want to consider when making a buckle carrier purchase, is whether or not you want forward facing or world facing. That is totally personal. It is absolutely fine for your baby to face outward or world face as long as they meet the appropriate milestones we talked about, okay? It is not harmful for their hips, nor is it harmful for their spine. Like anything else, I'm a big fan of moderation, right? So if you're facing your baby out sometimes, make sure you're also taking turns facing them in so they're working those core and head and neck muscles, okay? So this one, the Free to Grow and the Explore Carrier, both adjust the same, and they adjust with much more of what I call a shower curtain style. Do you see here? And what that means is that it has little snaps, and the seat moves across to adjust in width. So this is another really cool way to adjust the width of your carrier as your baby grows, right? So you get a lot of longevity out of your carrier, which is really fantastic. Now, Tula carriers, all of them have buckles here in the back. They're a ladder lock. They don't actually unhook. So it loosens and tightens here. So what that means is no buckles in the front, so it does not cross straps and it does not hip carry. But for many people, a fit of a Tula is much better for them. So that's something to consider when you're making your buckle carrier purchase. They also don't come standard with lower back support, but they have a separate piece that's inexpensive that you can buy. They can really support the lower back if you have lower back pain. So when I'm talking about where the buckle is located, I wanted to show you really quick, is I'll do the same thing, put my buckle carrier on backwards, and feed it through. Here it click, pull the tail out, make sure it's snug to my body, okay? Let's see, we have another question. Could I list all the carriers we've covered? Yes, I could totally do that for you. Okay, cool. All right, so here's my buckle carrier. It is snug on my body. It should be parallel to the ground. Granted, I have a baby bump in there. And then when I go to clip my chest clip, see my chest clip does slide, just like little baby carriers, same idea. This one has a removable hood instead of an affixed hood, so you can actually unsnap it, which is pretty cool. You don't want to use it. But what that means for me is that I need to really make sure that these are loose first, because when I go to clip it, so if these are loose, I'm going to go clip. Okay. I am tightening my carrier from back here. So I'm pulling forward instead of backwards. So if you've had an original ergo, this is how original ergos worked as well. So I am pulling forward to tighten. And another trick is to make sure your shoulder straps are even. You're going to want to check. Do they line up? Then you know your shoulder straps are even. You also may notice on your buckle carrier that you have little rubber bands at the ends. This is meant to roll up your excess if you are type A or you just like your straps out of the way. So that means you can roll them to be nice and neat, and you take the rubber band and put it around. Cool, cool, huh? A lot of people don't realize that that's what they do. Okay, so you can have it nice and rolled up instead of hanging down. So for me, as a plus size person, one consideration in purchasing a buckle carrier is that I have to reach back behind me and hook my thumbs or index fingers in order to loosen the carrier to reach. So this is harder for me to do. So it's just something that I have to be really confident in, or you need to be confident in when it comes to reaching. Now I can reach or duck out. Now we're getting a lot more questions about low profile buckle carriers, like the Happy Baby carrier or the Scout. You can see how low profile these are. Linen. These come in linen or silk. Right. And they also narrow in various ways. That means for newborns, you're able to, in the Scout, cinch the seat. Like that. Happy Baby has a new hook and loop kind of system. They used to use buttons like this. My only concern with this is that I don't think it gets narrow enough for feet and legs out with a newborn, and I would consider that a downside. I don't like baby's feet tucked in the initial. I would use a wrap or a ring sling anyway, so maybe that doesn't matter and you just move on to this carrier after. But both of these are worn upside down like Maydai's. That's because they don't have structured waists. They have very, very low profile waists. And so the Scout has a ring waist, similar to a ring sling. And the Happy Baby has a buckle. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on backwards, upside down. You can tell by the buckle orientation that this is how it's designed to go. I'm going to go through the rubber band. Shauna says she misses the meetups. I do too. I'm so sad. I mean, really no one could be sadder than me. I love in-person help. There's no replacement for in-person help. Videos are nice, and I'm glad that we're doing these, but I do miss the in-person meetups too, so thanks. Okay, hopefully soonish. All right, so I'm going to get in position, make sure I'm snug, right? That's important with your carrier, that it's snug to the body. And now I'm going to get my baby. So this also has a chest clip. This chest clip slides up and down a rail this way. But same idea. All able to be adjusted. Okay, find my baby. Buried in a pile of carriers. So one of the reasons why many are turning towards lower profile buckle carriers is because the really padded ones feel bulky. This can definitely be true. I'll go back to my saying that it needs to fit you well to be comfortable. But I do think, in general, lower profile carriers may not last you as long, and they may not have as many position options. So you definitely should check before you purchase, okay? I do like them for smaller babies, but they're not my choice for a larger, heavier baby. So I made sure my straps are loose so I can reach my chest clip right here. Make sure, I think I loosened it too much. My chest clip. And then I pull forward to tighten. Okay? So you can see this is a much more low profile feel. Much more similar to a waistless version called an on-buhimu. So that's another style out there that is a waistless version. That means all the weight is on your shoulders, so please keep that in mind. They are not comfortable for me, but I know many people who are very enthusiastic about them. So you can see, much more low profile, and this one does have a hood inside. Okay. Your hood also snaps. So it can attach or detach, but it gives you the option to cover baby's head when you are feeding or if it's sunny out. Okay, now I have to reach back here to loosen. It's fairly easy for me in this carrier. Unclip my chest clip, support baby, and undo. Okay. I wish I could cover every buckle carrier. I actually would like to do a buckle carrier specific video that compares and contrasts buckle carriers. If you'd like that, please leave that in the comments so I know. We can do a buckle carrier specific video. But I hope today's class was helpful for you. I know we covered a lot of material and there's a lot to think about, so you may have some questions. Please leave them in the comments. I'll get back to them, as I've said. But thank you so much for joining me. Sorry about what happened on Instagram. It's being persnickety today. But we will save this video and it will be available on our page for you to view. Please share it. Please show it to your expectant friends so that they know what carrier style they may be interested in. And hopefully very soon we'll be back to in-person meetings. Thank you so much for joining me.